Hey, what's going on, guys? This is my journal for Elliot, a Soldier's Fugue. And so there was a lot of interesting points of views and things that went along throughout this story. Mostly, I thought the premise in general of how it goes through the lives of many generations of soldiers and people who or nurses who were in war, and a lot of like the sacrifices and the trauma that they went through. I thought it was pretty interesting. And so one value that went on throughout the story is tradition. So Elliot, he wasn't really forced to join the war and become a soldier. He kind of just thought that he should carry on the tradition, or kind of it was his duty to kind of join. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And another perspective throughout the story was trauma and how so his pop, his grandpop, and his nurse Ginny, we're all veterans, either a soldier or a nurse, and so they all went through many forms of trauma and sacrifices. And this story kind of just shows what it's like to be like a soldier who has PTSD or anything along those lines. And so, one thing I didn't know when I first read the story was when Elliot was showing his duffel bag and like his belongings inside of it. His pop was telling him that it's the military code that you have no valuables, you can't bring any electronics with you, and I had no idea that was part of the military code. So I thought that was pretty interesting when I read it, and I thought it goes along with kind of the premise of the story. And so the way that American soldiers are depicted are they're all respectful men who are just doing their duty to fight with honor for their country. And then obviously, I don't know what the exact number is, but the majority of soldiers are going to go through some sort of PTSD or in some way have like a disorder or stress after, because they have to do some very stressful things, that they have to possibly kill people to try to honor their country. So it was they're depicted as very respectful men, and this doesn't really challenge the idea of American soldiers. It kind of shows how hard it can be for them, and really how difficult it can be just to be a soldier, and then what it's like after the fact. And so a fugue in general, I didn't know what it was before I read this story. So a fugue is a technique with two or more variables, and it's built upon a main subject, and the main subject is obviously this family, and they're going through the post traumatic stress and everything like that. And then so it's a musical technique where when you add a second, third, and fourth melodies, or it's kind of like different perspectives throughout the whole thing or different points of view. And then I thought the intention of the writer was to just make sure that all the points of views were very valid and that everyone could relate to all the points of views, from not only from Elliot, from his pop to his grandpop and Jenny, that everyone can see what they're going through and what trauma they're going through. And so my two final questions were, do all veterans have some form of PTSD after they get back from war? And my last question is, how many families uphold the same tradition where if your father went to war, then you have the duty or honor to do the war? So, thank you.